Just Ask, and $7.95 buys an extra-large 16-inch pepperoni pizza through September 30th. Call now. The news station. KOIN TV, Portland, Vancouver. Newsroom 6 is next.
Good evening. We're on at 5:30 tonight because of the President's news conference. The CBS Evening News will not be seen. Accountants are poring over the books at Rajneeshpuram. That's after the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh's announcement last night that his disciples are $55 million in debt. Money is just one of the many unanswered questions following Sheila's hasty departure from the ranch over the weekend. Richard Draper spent the day in Rajneeshpuram and has this report.
They were even lying to me. Because today I inquired and found that we are 55 million in debt.
Are Rajneeshis actually $55 million in the red? The Rajneesh Investment Corporation's new president does not think so.
We're looking at the books to try to determine that. It could be that what he meant was the liabilities of the corporation. And since we've got a total asset base of $200 million, a $55 million overall liability would be very consistent with an extremely strong financial base.
Diane John says there is no financial crisis, but he suspects Sheela may have embezzled some of the ranch's assets.
How much?
Well, I don't know. I'd say it could run anywhere from $10,000 or $20,000 taken in 2 or 3 pieces with credit cards up to millions and millions of dollars.
Exactly what is happening, I don't know. The information...
Calls pour in to Rajneeshpuram's visitor center. Rajneeshis say they and their Bhagwan are staying.
We are Oregonians now. We're part of Oregon. That does not change at all our being here, on the contrary.
New faces now mingle around Sheila's old house. People here swap Sheila stories. The telephone bugging bothers them most. Here is some of the recording equipment reportedly used by Sheila and her associates to bug Bhagwan and the others. Included is a Rajneesh prayer book with a tape recorder inside. Rajneeshis deny a mass exodus, saying only 20 or so have left. For the 2,000 that remain, there'll be changes, now unknown. In the wake of Sheila's departure, there'll be another change at Rajneeshpuram. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh has announced that he'll begin sharing his 90 Rolls Royces with the members of the commune here. From Rajneeshpuram, I'm Richard Draper reporting for Newsroom 6.
While Rajneesh says his commune is $55 million in debt, the ranch seems to be in good standing with most Oregon businesses. An Albany mobile home dealer, Golden West, is one of over 20 businesses in Oregon that has sold goods to the Rajneeshis during the past several years. Newsroom 6 checked with 15 businesses, from electrical to plumbing supply contractors, and it appears the group is paying its bills. A credit check with the Building Materials Association of Oregon shows that the Rajneeshis had cleared their accounts within 60 days, at least through May of this year. One building supply company in Portland said in light of recent developments, it will be reviewing its accounts with the commune.
Oregon State Police will investigate charges made by Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh that Sheela and others participated in illegal and deadly activities.
OSP Superintendent John Williams joins us now. Mr. Williams, is there any evidence to prove any of the charges that the guru made at his news conference 2 nights ago?
Well, this is a rather unusual situation where a person has come out publicly and to the majority of the media indicating that a number of crimes were committed and purporting to have information. We have not at this time developed any of the information that the Bhagwan has indicated is available. So we're waiting for them to come forward with the information that he's indicated they have.
Well, tell us about the investigation. What kind of evidence are you looking for?
Well, there are a number of allegations made by the Bhagwan publicly. Some involve attempted murder, and certainly then we would want evidence of that crime. Some of them involve some of the other crimes that were investigated, such as the salmonella poisoning at the Dows. He's indicated that Sheela or some of her cohorts were involved in that. We would like some evidence either from witnesses or some physical evidence that we could use to present to the grand jury.
Rajneesh has said that Sheela believe it could hold him back from signing an agreement.
You'll be hard-pressed to find a gold South African Krugerrand in this country soon. Today, Secretary of State George Shultz announced the United States is banning imports of the coins within the next few weeks. Meanwhile, in Cape Town today, thousands of teachers, parents, and students returned to school, but not for that purpose. Crowds reopened the schools without the permission of the South African white government, which closed the schools 3 weeks ago, calling them centers of protest.
They tried to kill 3 people. 3 people who were very close to me.
The guru claims his former aides tried to poison others in his inner circle and were behind last year's severe outbreak of salmonella in a nearby city.
This is one of the most greatest terrorist acts in our country, the poisoning of an entire town.
Congressman Jim Weaver has called for an FBI investigation. Others, including the Oregon State Police and the U.S. Attorney's Office, will look into the claims that the ousted officials were also involved in acts of arson and the placing of illegal bugging devices to spy on everyone in the commune, including Rajneesh.
My mind is in shock and my heart is hurting.
It's incredible.
If his followers are stunned, his foes aren't. In nearby Antelope, now the town of Rajneesh, longtime residents say this whole scandal is a fraud.
Oh, I'm not buying this. I didn't know what was happening, but that's absurd.
So far, little evidence has been offered to back up any of these charges, and those accused aren't available for comment. Most are said to have flown to Europe, including Ma Anand Sheela, who is said to be in Switzerland, and according to one report, plans to open up her own gambling casino. Judd Rose, ABC News, Rajneeshpuram, Oregon.
We have another report today which shows it is not easy to be in the school book business. For years now...
From poison a Wasco County judge to attempting to poison the entire city water supply of the Dalles. But none of these charges are really new to the residents of the Dalles because many have suspected the Rajneeshis for a long time. This 3-million-gallon water reservoir was full last summer when Dalles officials heard rumors that the Rajneeshis planned to poison the city's water supply. The gates were locked and police patrols were stepped up. The water was never poisoned, and the reservoir is now off the water system. Bhagwan also claimed that the Rajneeshis tried to poison Wasco County Judge Bill Holst. Holst says he became sick last August after a visit to Rajneeshpuram.
One of the people from their hospital connected with their health down there came out with a pitcher of water and 3 cups, poured the water, and we drank. I became violently ill about 12 hours after that.
Holst spent 4 days in the hospital with acute gastroenteritis. While his doctor says it's possible that Holst was poisoned, there's no way to know for sure. This pizza parlor was one of a half-dozen restaurants in the Dalles to suffer from a salmonella outbreak last year. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh claims the Rajneeshis were responsible.
I find it hard to believe that somebody could do something like that. It takes a sick mind to go in and try and poison thousands of people.
For law enforcement agencies, the problem with Bhagwan's allegations is that so far there is no evidence to support them.
Anybody can make an accusation, whether there's proof to stand up, to have those accusations stand up, is going to have to be determined.
Bhagwan says his disciples set the arson fire at the Wasco County Planning Department that caused $65,000 worth of damage earlier this year. The damage has now been repaired and most of the records salvaged. But despite Rajneesh's public promise of cooperation, officials are not expecting improved relations.
At this point, I really don't know, but given the track record, I would say that it won't happen. But only time will tell.
Duro's comments are typical of most of the Dalles residents. They've been misled by the Rajneeshis before, and most of them no longer take the group leader's statements at face value. Denise and Richard, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve.
2 Oregon congressmen today demanded the FBI undertake a quick and thorough investigation of possible Rajneeshi involvement in the poisoning in the Dalles. And Tim Hillard reports it may be just the beginning of stepped-up federal involvement with the Rajneeshis.
The poisoning of a town is to my...
Oregon Congressman Jim Weaver was on the phone to the FBI early this morning.
I would guess your people are already doing something, but I want it thorough and I want swift.
Months ago, Weaver was on the House floor. He was blaming the Rajneeshis then for the Dalles poisoning, but he had no proof and no one listened. Today, he was sure the FBI would investigate and punish those responsible.
And the people who have absconded to Europe should be extradited, brought back here, indicted, prosecuted, and found guilty immediately, subject to the severest punishment.
Other Oregon congressmen see more possibilities. Bob Smith.
It is an opening, and it will be used as that.
Smith says at long last, federal officials will now have a legal reason to look more closely at the Rajneeshis.
Obviously, this revelation certainly gives authorities an opportunity to go inside Rajneeshpuram and find out what's going on there.
And one can expect more fallout from here as pressure now builds on immigration officials to speed up their review of whether the Bhagwan himself should be allowed to remain in this country. In Washington, D.C., Tim Hillard, Channel 2 News.
For many Oregonians, the sources of the charges coming out of Rajneeshpuram are very much suspect. The allegations include attempted murder and wiretapping, and Jim Hyde reports the new regime at the commune is promising to prosecute the guilty and then continue building their community in Oregon.
The faithful sannyasins have trooped into their meeting hall countless times over the past 3 years, ready to share some new joy they seem to be able to derive from being with the 53-year-old guru they call their enlightened master. But tonight there's also some anxiety about possible new allegations of evil by those who had been Bhagwan's closest aides.
They tried to kill 3 people. 3 people who were very close to me.
Bhagwan recited the allegations Monday night and expanded on them in a Tuesday morning discourse. Now the job of clearing them up and reuniting the Rajneesh community has been given to this woman, Ma Prem Hasya. She would not explain what specific evidence exists to link Sheela with attempted murder, wiretapping and other crimes, but said commune lawyers are presenting it to state authorities.
Whatever information that's necessary to be given is being given. As far as specifics, I don't know. It's the attorneys.
But it is accurate to say that Bhagwan intends to press criminal charges in these matters.
Definitely.
One of the Rajneeshis alleged to be victims of attempted poisoning is Deva Raj, Bhagwan's physician and Hasya's husband. There are also charges of wiretapping and eavesdropping. The Rajneeshis displayed an array of electronic gear purportedly used for that purpose.
The equipment that we have found and...
Where was it found? How was it used?
All over places, including in Bhagwan's sitting room, some of individual people's homes.
Hasya may be uniquely qualified for her new job. Her biography details an escape from the Nazis in France, marriage to the man who produced the Academy Award-winning movie The Godfather, and recruiting for Bhagwan among the rich and famous in Hollywood. She wears diamond-encrusted jewelry, drives her own Rolls-Royce, and carries herself with a grace in contrast to the caustic Anand Sheela.
Definitely. I feel we're stronger, more enthusiastic than ever.
If the schism in Rajneeshism is genuine, it may be comforting to some Oregonians that the guru's followers are subject to the same human frailties as the rest of us. And it could be interesting for everyone to see if absolute power corrupts Bhagwan's new #1 woman. At Rajneeshpuram, Jim Hyde, Channel 2 News.
There was some unwelcome news for the Rajneeshis from the state Supreme Court today. The court ruled that Rajneeshpuram's annexation of 119 acres of farmland is invalid. The decision is part of a series of legal battles over whether the city is complying with state land use goals. This time, the court says cities must have state-approved urban growth boundaries before they can convert farmland to urban uses. The land use group 1,000 Friends of Oregon says today's decisions could eventually mean the Rajneeshis will have to remove their worship center.
I would anticipate that the fines would be upheld now that the decision has been made that the buildings are unlawful, and where it's clear that the city went ahead and put buildings there knowing that the decision was being challenged and knowing that they could be unlawful buildings.
However, attorney Mark Greenfield says it could be several years of legal delays before the Rajneesh buildings would be required to be removed. A setback today for those who want to establish a new city in East Multnomah County.
The Rajneeshis say they have uncovered a hidden tunnel and a clandestine laboratory in the former home of Anand Sheela, the outspoken leader of the group, who of course left the commune last weekend amid accusations of criminal wrongdoing. Sheela lived in this rambling house along with other top executives who also fled over the weekend. The house was called Jesus Grove prior to the exodus. Yesterday it was renamed Sinai Grove. Rajneesh spokeswoman Diane Rosalie says the tunnel and laboratory were found today after a disciple who helped build the house came forward. She says mice were being slowly poisoned in the laboratory there, which also contained books about assassination. In the Central Oregon commune of Antelope, or the community, that is, of Antelope, there was intense skepticism today about yesterday's news of the shakeup at Rajneeshpuram. Sylvia Stenson brings us that story tonight.
It is quiet and desolate in Antelope. 4 years of Rajneesh control has emptied the community of all but a few of its original residents. And those who remain are bitter.
Because we don't want no goddamn foreigners around here, criminals and what have you, do we? We don't need them. Well,
but yesterday, Indian guru Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh said he is turning over a new leaf with the exile of Sheela and others in positions of power. In a press conference last night, Rajneesh said he wants to make peace with the people of Oregon, that his followers had been ugly to take over Antelope, and that former residents could now buy back their property at fair market value.
Who decides what the fair market value is, them or the state of Oregon? You know, who wants it back if the taxes are going to stay exorbitantly high like they are now?
But yesterday's pronouncement by the Bhagwan that Sheela and the others are gone for good, charged with attempted murder, with robbing the commune of millions, of planning to poison a public water supply and other atrocities, is viewed by Antelope residents as yet another lie in a long list of them.
I think what we're getting is the same thing we've always got. It's a bunch of poppycock. They're gone, yes, but there's something else behind it.
It has always been a trick, say locals, who frankly hope it's a trick this time, but one that will take the Rajneeshis away. Antelope residents point to recent trips to Europe and Australia as attempts by Rajneeshis to reestablish themselves.
Well, things probably just didn't work out the way they thought they were going to when they first came here, you know. Figured they was going to get all us country bumpkins, and didn't work.
Residents question if the shakeup at Rajneeshpuram is part of a plan by the Rajneeshis to divest themselves of legal hassles and financial burdens, to claim funds are missing and inability to pay, to get out with what they can, sell the rest back to Antelope, and relocate elsewhere. They're all suppositions, but locals say suppositions made of more fact than fiction, and perhaps even a scheme the scope of which is being hidden from many of the Bhagwan's disciples.
Well, it's been one of shock. We've all been very surprised at the whole situation. We're just sort of stunned at this moment. When I say we, I can only speak for myself, but that's the general consensus that I feel. We're just sitting back and looking at it right now.
And longtime residents of Antelope say if things are supposed to change, if the Bhagwan wants to make peace with the people of Oregon and give back the city of Antelope, why are its citizens still kept under surveillance by the Rajneesh police force, even as they went to their polling place today? Adding to local skepticism is the fact every one of the Bhagwan's right-hand people traveled clear out of the country, beyond the prying eyes of the press, before word of the shakeup was made public. Locals say, no doubt, there is no shakeup. Rather, this is what the Rajneeshis were talking about several weeks ago, when they said they were planning something to top all. In Antelope, Sylvia Stinson, the 10 o'clock news.
Oregon State Police say they're extremely interested in the allegations made last night by the Bhagwan. But so far, they say they have very little evidence to go on. Nevertheless, they say they will pursue every lead before this latest Rajneeshi episode is put in the case closed file. Florence Jonick has more.
But the strangest thing is my own bedroom. My own sitting room was bugged.
Accusations of criminal wrongdoing flowed freely from the guru's lips last night.
This commune is free from a fascist regime. Adolf Hitler has died again.
In a rambling discourse, the Indian guru denounced his
spirit of openness. Precautions, including guard posts lining the road into the Central Oregon commune and armed guards attending the guru's lectures, do continue. But shifts in the attitudes began when Sheela, the guru's former secretary, and other top disciples left the commune a week ago. The shakeup is continuing. Visitors who come to the ranch and stay the night still are being searched, and they must sign consent forms that hold the Rajneeshis blameless for any harm that might befall them during their stay. Special permits are also required to drive cars on the ranch. However, an extensive electronic surveillance network has been dismantled. Well, Seattle's teachers' strike continues, and still classrooms in the city are closed. The latest talks between teachers and the district broke off in bitterness yesterday. No new talks.
The interview with the Bhagwan was canceled today. Jim Hyde has more on the day's events at the Central Oregon Commune.
Each day at Rajneeshpuram begins with a morning discourse by the guru. There are no more startling accusations of crime, just the usual consciousness-raising commentary.
Jesus has promised to come back.
But the sannyasins who have remained here say their living conditions have improved, that a new feeling of openness prevails.
The people in the positions that have been vacated by Sheela and her friends is a great deal of openness to everybody's ideas and everybody's complaints about what was wrong, what needs to be put right, this kind of thing.
Some who could not tolerate Sheela's reign did leave and are now returning. Patrick spent the past year making stained glass in Indiana. He explained why.
You'd be moved around from different temples. If you was in one temple and you saw something happening and you wanted to know what it was and you couldn't find out, then I'd be moved. I was moved quite a number of times.
Residents are lining up for their daily ration of lunch and something almost as important, legal advice. With all the investigators here, virtually everyone is subject to an interview. Rajneeshis are being advised not to incriminate themselves in what their new leaders say has become a wide-ranging investigation. A special meeting of the Rajneeshpuram City Council was told it is becoming too wide. The mayor pro tem of Rajneeshpuram is Prem Niren, an attorney. But some things here do not change. The Attorney General is still unpopular. Meanwhile, his investigators say they'll pursue the questioning, including Bhagwan. An FBI interview with Bhagwan was scheduled and canceled Tuesday afternoon. At Rajneeshpuram, Jim Hyde, Channel 2 News.
The German news magazine Stern will publish an exclusive 25-page interview with the Bhagwan's former secretary. According to the correspondent, Ma Anand, Sheela says she is still in love with the Bhagwan, but she says the Bhagwan is the most corrupt. Sources in Germany have also told Channel 2 News that Sheela has stopped wearing the red clothing of the Rajneeshis, and she no longer wears the traditional mala with the Bhagwan's picture around her neck.
Steve Arena joins us now for a look at the Tuesday night sports report.
Denise, welcome in sports.
They have not tried to locate her. At Rajneeshpuram, the evidence gathering is proceeding cautiously.
I won't comment on any evidence whatsoever.
Does that mean there is no evidence?
I said I won't comment on anything of that nature. I can't.
The evidence that Sheela had used to label 10 Rajneeshis as AIDS victims may be suspect. The Bhagwan and his new spokeswoman say 2 patients were retested and found to be free of the disease. The guru says Sheela may have isolated some people to keep them quiet about her own activities.
An Oregon millionaire who plans to run for the U.S. Senate has admitted being tried on marijuana smuggling charges in 1977. Jerry Wilson, owner of the Solaflex exercise machine company, has been acquitted of all charges. He says he knew the information would come out, so he decided to go public with the news. Wilson says he hasn't decided if he'll go through with his Senate plans.
Told his followers that Ma Anand, Sheela and the other banished leaders had created a religion of Rajneeshism, and he says he doesn't want that. So he's removed the most obvious symbols of the followers.
From today, you are free to use any color of clothes. If you feel like using red clothes, that is up to you.
The Bhagwan says his followers won't have to wear malas bearing his picture any longer, and new members of the group will not be issued malas or red clothing.
Well, not your run-of-the-mill day at the Oregon State Penitentiary. Convicted rapist James Henry was married inside prison walls today. Not that unusual until you consider he married the woman he was convicted of raping, 18-year-old Regina Moracle, who is also his stepdaughter. Henry has also been convicted for the mercy killing of his wife. We don't have pictures of the actual ceremony because exclusive rights to cover their wedding were sold to the National Enquirer. Psychologist Elliot Weiner says he can't say for sure why Regina married Henry, but he's not really that surprised.
Some people feel it's better to stay in a situation, even though it's terrifying, where you know the rules and you can predict what's going to happen, than to take the risk and move out into a world that you don't consider trustworthy. And I would doubt if somebody in this situation really sees the rest of the world as a very trusting place. You know, he may not be, to us, a wonderful person, but to her, he may be a real security blanket.
Regina says they were married because she knows that's what God wants. Oregon law prohibits conjugal outfits or the mala, the beaded necklace with his picture. And there was one other announcement. The guru says his followers should no longer call themselves Rajneeshis. He says that term was the idea of his former secretary, Ma Anand Sheela. Steve Teitler is at the Rajneeshpuram ranch and has reaction from the guru's followers.
Some sannyasins wasted little time in taking advantage of their new wardrobe freedom. They strutted their stuff in blues and greens, some with mullahs, the beaded necklaces bearing a picture of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, and others left their mullahs at home.
The outside is not what makes you. It's just a shell on the outside. It's what goes on with you inside. And I feel right now, anyway, I feel more comfortable with what you see right now.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, that's really total freedom, you know, just to be yourself. Be a sannyasi and see Bhagwan as your friend.
It just feels like a great freedom, like we don't need any more of these outer things that we've had for a long time.
As for Bhagwan's announcement that the sannyasins are no longer to be called Rajneeshis and that there is no such thing as the religion of Rajneeshism, most sannyasins see that as a positive move.
Oh, I love it. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's changing our total life. I mean, it's freedom.
So the mood here is upbeat, and rather than weakening the group, most sannyasins feel the new freedom of dress.
Day or two, he'll be returned to Oregon to face a long list of charges against him. In the meantime, the guru seems to be handling life behind bars in stride. Jailers say he's eating well, and he's making no complaints, which, as Jim Hyde reports, is more than can be said for his followers.
6 are out and 1 is still in jail.
That was the message delivered to 2,000 members of the Rajneesh community last night. It was not what they wanted to hear. Bhagwan had been led back to his cell while the charges were dropped against 3 of his companions, and 3 others posted bail in North Carolina. Dion John quoted Bhagwan's words to his followers.
I'll be back. Don't worry. You go happy.
A couple hundred Rajneeshis had marched around the federal courthouse in Portland earlier Friday. The demonstration was planned to protest Bhagwan's arrest and continued detention. Rajneeshis are planning other legal moves and further demonstrations. The next would most likely occur at the U.S. courthouse, where Bhagwan will be brought for further hearings after his transfer from North Carolina. In Portland, Jim Hyde, Channel 2 News.
The followers of the guru held a prayer vigil up in Seattle today. About 80 Rajneeshis rented a yoga house in the University District for their assembly, and they appealed for their leader's release.
How could a 53-year-old, small, frail man be a threat to the community? I mean, we feel like we would like him to be released on bail, protective custody, whatever, something so we can get him out, nourish his body, let him sit in his specially designed chair for his back, and just take care of his needs.
Today's
authorities say the guru was transferred today from his maximum security cell in the Oklahoma County Courthouse that you see right here.
He is by no means being given any special consideration or any red carpet treatment, so to speak.
Where he is tonight is a secret. Federal marshals are concerned for Rajneesh's safety, although they say he has not received any death threats since arriving in this Justice Department plane last night. Rajneesh will apparently board that jet again tomorrow morning. I say apparently. He is reportedly bound for Oregon, although the plane may make several stops before reaching the West Coast. His followers are worried about his health. They have not seen Rajneesh in several days. They charge the federal officials will not disclose his location, so his friends will not discover that he is suffering, as they put it. Prison officials contend
Jeff Gianola.
And I'm Melissa Mills. A winter storm watch is in effect for this evening. Before we check up on the rest of the news,
Sri Rajneesh has been freed from his prison after his attorneys posted bail. Steve Teitler has the story.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh was still a prisoner when he walked into the federal courthouse this morning. The first order of business was his arraignment on 35 federal immigration charges. Rajneesh pleaded not guilty. His attorneys then requested that Rajneesh be released on bail pending trial. But government attorneys said Bhagwan should remain behind bars. They say he already tried to flee the country once when he was arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina, allegedly bound for Bermuda. U.S. attorneys also said that no amount of bail could guarantee that Rajneesh would show up in court because of his enormous financial resources. But federal judge Ed Levy rejected those arguments, and he set bail at $500,000. Levy said Rajneesh could return to his home in Rajneeshpuram, but he may not travel outside of Oregon, and he may not travel anywhere by airplane. As a further precaution, the judge ordered the Rajneeshis to remove any plane capable of overseas flight from the Rajneesh airport. There was one final delay this evening for the Bhagwan. The jail lobby was evacuated for 20 minutes when authorities received a bomb threat, but no explosives were found, and Rajneesh was able to return to the jail and check out.
He said he was very tired. On the other hand, he said he will fight the charges and he will win. He said he's not guilty of anything and that he will just fight and win this case.
Isabel, where does he go from here?
My understanding is he's gonna go take a shower and then I don't know what will happen. I know we're gonna have a big celebration at the ranch tonight, yes.
In Portland, Steve Tytler, Channel 2 News.
Our televote question tonight deals with the handling of the Bhagwan since his arrest. The question, do you approve of the government's handling of the Bhagwan's case? So far, our results say that at least 50%, a little better than 51% actually, say they do approve, and it's pretty well evenly split because, oh, I'm sorry, that was a no vote. Can't read the screen there. 48% say they approve, 51% say they don't, and that's with almost 9,000 phone calls in so far tonight. Televote is not a scientific poll, but just an informal sampling of how you feel. Jeff?
Well, 20 years in jail, that's the sentence handed down today to a man accused of bombing the Hotel Rajneesh. Now, that incident happened back in July of 1983. 3 pipe bombs exploded in the hotel, causing damage and injuring Stephen Pastor. Pastor was later charged with setting off the bombs. Last month, the jury found Pastor guilty, and today he received the 20-year sentence.
The gorge will even have a little snow showers mixed in there tomorrow at times and more snow showers on Sunday. East of the Cascades.
But looked really very fine. He did the normal kind of hand gesturing and waving that he did as he drove by.
Chuck, what kinds of measures are authorities taking to make sure that Bhagwan does not leave the country, does not leave the state?
Well, as I understand it, the primary ones were agreed to in court, and that is that no planes will come into this area, into Rajneeshpuram at the airport, that would have the capability of flying over an ocean. That seems to be the strongest one. He has to report at regular intervals to his probation officer, but aside from that, in the sense of any presence here at the ranch of outside law enforcement officers, there doesn't seem to be any of that.
Was there a meeting, a community meeting at the ranch tonight, Chuck?
Yes, there was. Before his arrival, Hasha, the secretary, and Dion John held a meeting and talked with the people who were there. Members of the commune responded to questions, basically discussing once again their sense of outrage at what has gone on. Hasha said that the justice system is simply a machine that can't respond to any sort of human needs, and suggested that they wanted to punish Bhagwan, and they certainly have. When asked specifically who, she talked in terms of politicians, but did not name anybody specifically.
Buyers from across the country. But the sannyasins, the faithful who've lived there for the past few years, are doing most of the shopping. Scott Miller has the story.
3 buses a day are leaving Rajneeshpuram now, and all the seats are booked through Saturday. By that time, the majority of the people here should be gone.
I'm going to Germany.
Florida. I'm ready.
What are you going to do out there?
First go to Texas, get some money together, and then South Pacific and Australia after that.
With the population shrinking, businesses are beginning to shut down. The burger shop is closed, so is the disco. The pizzeria is winding down. The men's boutique is moving down the mall, so the travel agency can use the space. One business here is still very busy, the Rajneesh Financial Services Trust. Sannyasins are still lined up trying to cash out their currency card accounts, oftentimes without success. Sannyasins are trying to use up their accounts on purchases at the ranch. Some are spending a few nights at the hotel. Others are stopping by what's become a makeshift used car lot.
You looking for a car?
Yeah, I need a car.
What do you need a car for?
Well, to take off, go another place. I mean, the place is finished.
Do you have money in currency card accounts that you need to spend on this?
I have money in currency card, and as you know, I mean, you know the situation here.
Prem Goldie also has money frozen in a currency card account, and she also wants to buy a car to leave the ranch.
It's sadness, and I haven't gone over to bitterness, and because I'm around people leaving all the time, it makes it hard to just keep on going and seeing what's the next step.
This man may be buying lots of cars. He's a Texas car dealer who's close to coming to terms on 79 Rolls Royces.
What kind of an offer are you going to make?
Well, at this point, we really don't want to discuss the offer, but we've reached a tentative agreement.
And when do you expect it to be completed?
Hopefully this afternoon.
There's still enough spirit here to greet such a buyer in the old Rajneeshi style, but that spirit is waning among some sannyasins who are scrounging just to leave the only home they've known for months.
Yeah, I mean, if your whole roots get cut off,
In Rajneeshpuram, Scott Miller, News 8.
Meanwhile, Rajneeshian state attorneys are getting ready to face off in federal court next month. Both sides claim the exodus from the ranch will not affect the upcoming legal battle or the ongoing investigation there. News 8's Kathy Kiyomura has details on this.
Because of the ongoing criminal investigations at the ranch, disciples are leaving under the watchful eye of the state.
Aren't all the state's witnesses leaving?
No. Not beyond any reach that we would have.
Governor Vikatia says the state is pushing ahead with its probe of alleged wrongdoing at Rajneeshpuram and an upcoming court battle to prove the city is an unconstitutional mix of church and state.
You have to understand why the church and state case itself, and it does relate to land use, whether that city was legal, what's going to happen to that land. And I think and I wouldn't mind going through the exercise in any event. In case there's something like this in the future, we'll have some precedent.
We're confident that the incorporation issue and the church-state issue will be resolved favorably so that that property as a developable urban center will be available.
And there is a separate incorporation challenge by 1,000 Friends of Oregon. Rajneeshis may realize a higher price for the ranch if incorporation remains intact. They've already spent millions of dollars on attorney's fees. Their fight will continue at least until the ranch is out of the red. In Portland, Kathy Kiyomura, News 8.
While the state of Rajneeshi finances may have some people worried, the Portland bank holding their account says it will not be affected. At the ranch, Rajneeshis who have invested their money in Rajneesh Financial Services were discovering that the trust doesn't have any cash on hand. There was a run on the bank last week, and some customers were turned away, told they would simply have to wait for their money. Last October, after First Interstate Bank dropped them as customers, about a half dozen Rajneeshi corporations took their banking business to American State, a black-owned bank here in Portland. A spokesman for American State says the Rajneeshi accounts have been handled like any other. When the Rajneeshis made a deposit, the bank made sure it cleared before crediting their account. So American State does not expect to be affected by any of the Rajneeshi Corporation problems. A bank officer does say it's unfortunate that the Rajneeshis are leaving. With their departure, American
action taken against the commune. Champagne corks were popping well past midnight. But this celebration was more personal, and for some, more poignant. Even with Bhagwan on the other side of the world, Rajneeshpuram's last birthday party didn't disappoint.
Happy birthday.
How do you feel today?
It's his birthday. We're enjoying it and celebrating to the last minute.
It's beautiful. Best. Nice that it be the best in the last one, too.
Many sannyasins still don't know where they're going from here.
Oh, don't ask me that. I have no idea.
But Bhagwan has already invited his followers to live in the Pune, India commune, and sannyasins are looking for land elsewhere. So there's a good chance that next year's party will be a lot bigger and an ocean away from Oregon. In Rajneeshpuram, Scott Miller, News 8.
Trustees named to oversee the liquidation of the commune in Rajneeshpuram have ruled out a big auction at the ranch, at least for the time being. Now, the auction had been set to begin the 17th of December. No new date has been set. But the auctioneer who was supposed to handle the event believes the cancellation is a bad idea. He says the media attention now amounts to thousands of dollars of free advertising.
State and city police are arresting the alleged members of a big drug ring.
The hall is a repository of movable assets for the Guru's garage sale. That auction has been postponed by the court trustees, who will be watching over the sale and any shuffling of Rajneesh corporate assets.
They'll be monitoring any sales that go forward,
and also the payment of things like gas and electric and all that sort of stuff. And as far as the winding down process is concerned, we're basically going to be doing what we were intending to do anyway.
While activities are winding down here at Rajneeshpuram, sannyasins say several Rajneesh enterprises will sprout up elsewhere. The Rajneesh International Meditation University will relocate at Lago Maggiore in northern Italy. A Rajneesh Health and Retreat Center will operate in Hawaii. And the Rajneesh Times and Rajneesh Publications will set up shop in Boulder, Colorado. About 100 sannyasins will remain to close down the commune. There is much speculation about what it will be worth without a city charter. But the former religious city in the desert will apparently again become a vacant cattle ranch for sale to the highest bidder. At Rajneeshpuram, Jim Hyde, Channel 2 News.
A major drug raid today in Florence. 24 people are...
Next on Unit 8, Jim Little.
Oh, that was a great dinner. Wow, it's time to clean up. Let's go.
What's the rush?
Mickey's coming over.
Mickey?
Okay.
409's powerful grease cutters dissolve greasy dirt fast.
Way to hustle, Dad.
Who's Mickey?
409 cuts easily through greasy grime.
Terrific. Sorry you have to rush off.
Will somebody please tell me who's Mickey?
Hi.
Hi.
Formula 409 starts to work before you start to wipe.
What do you know about cranberries?
I like cushion spreads and taste.
What do you know about cran apples?
More fresh fruit flavor than ever.
Good for you, tastes so good too. Cran apple.
The unique cranberry has essential things your body needs. So does Cran Apple, the better-than-ever cranberry apple drink.
Better tasted fresh fruit flavor.
Hey, what do you know?
Now with fresher fruit flavor.
It's good for you, America. From Ocean Spray.
Today, jail overcrowding continues to be a big problem in Portland, and county officials say it's getting worse. There are now more inmates than ever before. The grand jury is looking into allegations of wrongdoing at the commune. Richard?
A jury in Hood River has begun hearing evidence in a $3 million lawsuit against Ma Anand Sheela. A woman from Antelope is charging that Sheila's outrageous conduct caused her severe emotional distress. Jim Hyde reports on the opening arguments.
Shot himself because she was going around with another man. If the board wants to know, she might want to tell her children the honest truth. Dad, are we going to go on like this or not?
An edited version of this videotape, shot by a television news crew at an Antelope school board meeting, will be played for the jury. The target of Sheila's remarks, Marcia Wickelman, lost her husband in an accidental shooting incident 6 weeks before the October 1983 meeting. Ms. Wickelman is suing Sheela for $3 million, claiming that Sheila's remarks were planned to cause her severe emotional distress. The trial has been moved from Wasco to Hood River County Circuit Court. Ms. Wickelman's attorneys are calling her neighbors and a psychiatrist to testify that she suffered great emotional distress because of Sheila's remarks about the death of her husband. Rajneesh defense attorneys agree that Sheila's statements were false and outrageous. They told the jury they will show that it was the death of her husband that caused Ms. Wickelman's emotional problems and that Sheila's words were not a significant factor. So 12 jurors have said they can put aside Sheila's reputation and the recent criminal accusations against her. They promised to base this case solely on the testimony heard on the witness stand. Did Marcia Wickelman suffer severe emotional distress caused by Sheela? And is that distress worth $3 million? The trial
at Rajneeshpuram. At least 3 more Rajneesh commune residents testified before the secret panel today. Affidavits and accusations from Rajneeshis have blamed Ma Anand Sheela for those crimes. The jury still has a long list of witnesses and evidence to see. Prosecutors say any indictments are still a few months away. Melissa?
Well, Jeff, final arguments are expected tomorrow in a $3 million lawsuit against Sheela in Hood River. A circuit court jury there is hearing evidence that Sheela deliberately caused severe emotional distress to a woman from Antelope. At a school board meeting, Sheela said that Marcia Wickelman's husband had committed suicide. He had actually died several weeks before of an accidental gunshot wound. A psychiatrist testified today that Mrs. Wickelman had suffered permanent emotional damage because of what Sheela said. Rajneesh defense attorneys are arguing that it was the man's death and not Sheila's comments that caused Mrs. Wickelman's depression. A German magazine is reporting that Ma Anand Sheela tried to arrange for a pilot to crash his bomb-laden plane into the Wasco County courthouse last year. The pilot refused and was banished to a small Rajneesh commune somewhere in Germany. Brooks Burford has more on the magazine and some very revealing pictures inside.
Ma Anand Sheela was reportedly paid $30,000 by Germany's Der Stern magazine to be interviewed by them last month. Then, last week, on the streets of London, a Portland tourist spotted the latest issue of Der Stern's competitor, Quick magazine. Ma Anand Sheela, on the cover, in the nude, with others of her exiled elite. The pictures inside appear to be authentic and hide nothing. Their origin is not known. German-born Klaus Mager interpreted the copy.
And behind her, Krishna Deva, 36, the former mayor of the Bhagwan colony. Oh my word. Without unabashed, unashamed, Sheela loved the pleasure of luxury. Even in July, this picture is from July 1985.
The magazine interview with the Bhagwan reveals a daring plot to bomb the Wasco County courthouse.
Sheela demanded from one of the pilots to equip one of their planes with bombs and then to fly that plane into the administrative building of Wasco County. The pilot was supposed to jump off before and save himself by parachute.
The article reveals the Bhagwan intended
to died of an accidental gunshot wound. Rajneesh attorneys claim it was the man's death, not Sheela's comments, that caused the emotional distress. And the investigation continues into alleged wrongdoing at Rajneeshpuram. A grand jury in the Dalles is looking into allegations of attempted murder, arson, and poisoning at the commune. 3 Rajneesh residents testified before the secret panel today. Affidavits and accusations by Rajneeshis blame Ma Anand Sheela for the crimes. The jury still has a long list of witnesses and evidence to examine. Prosecutors say any indictments are still months away. Denise?
Meanwhile, Jeff, a German magazine implicates Sheela in a scheme to bomb the Wasco County courthouse last year. But a man refused to carry out the plan and so was banished to a small Rajneesh commune in Germany. Brooks Burford has more on the magazine, which contains some revealing pictures.
Ma Anand Sheela was reportedly paid $30,000 by Germany's Der Stern magazine to be interviewed by them last month. Then, last week, on the streets of London, a Portland tourist spotted the latest issue of Der Stern's competitor, Quick magazine. Ma Anand Sheela, on the cover, in the nude, with others of her exiled elite. The pictures inside appear to be authentic and hide nothing. Their origin is not known. German-born Klaus Mager interpreted the copy.
Unabashed, unashamed, Sheela loved the pleasure of luxury. Even in July, this picture is from July 1985.
The magazine interview with the Bhagwan reveals a daring plot to bomb the Wasco County courthouse.
Sheela demanded from one of the pilots to equip one of their planes with bombs and then to fly that plane into the administrative building of Wasco County. The pilot was supposed to jump off before and save himself by parachute.
In Portland, Brooks...
She's ready to answer the charges of poisoning, wiretapping, and the other allegations from the Bhagwan, and extradition proceedings won't be necessary. Here's more on this from John Tuttle in the newsroom. John?
Kathy, Pete, in a telephone interview this morning, Sheela told me she knows nothing of poisoning or any of the other charges the grand jury is currently hearing in the Dalles. From her hotel in West Germany, she sounded willing to talk to investigators, but so far none of them have tried.
They don't have to extradite me. They just have to call me for what do you call, if they want me for court appearance or something, they should just ask me to come.
Simply call you and you will come to the United States?
Of course.
And tell what you know?
Why not? What do I have to hide?
Sheela says her sources tell her 500 people have dropped out of Bhagwan's flock since she left. And she says that while corporate finances were intact when she and her associates left Bhagwan, there's now a very big financial mess. And she predicts more people dropping out.
How angry do you think Bhagwan is with you?
Obviously, plenty angry.
We got an idea of just how angry Bhagwan may be late last month when he told his followers the whole idea of Rajneeshism as a religion had come from Sheela. With Sheela gone, he ordered the books with the rites and prayers of Rajneeshism burned. At the same time, he had them burn Sheela's robes. But Sheela says she never suggested establishing a religion in the first place.
It was his religion, it wasn't mine.
All this was his idea, not yours?
No, it was not mine. I wouldn't think of such things.
Bhagwan thought of them?
Uh-huh.
And then having thought of them, now he blames them on you and gets rid of them.
Well, that's why he needs an exclusive secretary to blame it on. This has been his style all along.
While no longer a Rajneeshi, she still calls herself Ma Anand Sheela because she says it's her legal name. But she doesn't wear the beaded necklace anymore. She says she still wears the red clothes because that's all she has. Pete, Kathy?
Well, John, Bhagwan says that Sheela took $43 million with her when she left, and she claims that she took very few possessions. Which one of them do we believe?
Well, Sheela says she doesn't have any money, but she's also told me she's negotiating to buy a hotel. We know that she has some money because Stern Magazine and at least 2 television companies have paid her for interviews. She offered to do a 2-hour on-camera interview with us if we flew to Germany, but she wanted us to pay her $10,000. We told her no.
So what about the allegations of the $43 million, John?
It's just one of those things we don't know the answer to yet. But we do know Sheela, and we know she loves attention, and she likes to be interviewed. She told me she's writing a book. She's done a couple of 100 pages already and expects to have it finished in 3 or 4 months. And we know there's the possibility of some criminal charges that could mean she'll have to come back to the United States and testify. One way or another, we're going to be hearing her version of all this, including the $43 million. It'll take time, but finally, I think Sheela will answer a lot of our questions.
Officials, including Ma Prem Isabel, a key spokesperson, wrapped up the witness list last week. Bhagwan's constant companion, Ma Yogo Vivek, also appeared before the grand jury on Friday. Testimony may start up again tomorrow. Over 100 Rajneeshis are set to appear before the grand jury in proceedings which may last several months. For the 3rd time in a month, divers were again searching the bottom of Rajneeshpuram's Petagali Lake today, looking for evidence. Scott Miller was there.
The FBI had wanted to call in Navy frogmen to comb the murky waters of Patanjali Lake. Instead, a Portland-based salvage company is doing the job with a borrowed Jefferson County Sheriff's boat and a sophisticated metal detector called a magnetometer.
Once you get something that registers on it, then it may be nothing but barbed wire or whatever, and then just check each spot out.
So at least you know there's going to be something
There'll
metal.
be something down there. Who knows, a crescent wrench or whatever.
Twice divers from the Wasco County Sheriff's Department have tried to search Patanjali Lake. All they found was 18 inches of muck on the bottom. According to the sheriff, they were looking for automatic weapons.
But the FBI agent at the scene here isn't expecting to find any automatic weapons in the lake. The magnetometer's been set to pick up anything metal that's bigger than a dinner plate.
Sources close to the investigation say the divers are hoping to find financial and medical records and an incubator that may have been used to cultivate the AIDS virus.
Search, but not automatic weapons. Whatever evidence may lie at the bottom of Patanjali Lake appears to be extremely important to investigators. They got a tip that a thorough search of the lake might be worthwhile while interviewing witnesses in Rajneeshpuram several weeks ago. Searching the lake is tedious and time-consuming. The salvagers are dragging a sophisticated metal detector along the muddy bottom. If they have to comb every inch of the lake before finding what they're looking for, the job could take all week. Did you get any hot spots out there?
Oh, I had a couple little dings.
And Sunshine, 2 longtime...
Telling Gary to get his hands up and, exit the aircraft with his hands above his head and so forth, and one was pointing a rifle at me through the windshield of the aircraft.
In all, 9 people were arrested. These 2 were among them, but they were not aboard the jets. Maxine Levine and Robert John were at the airport trying to arrange for 2 more Lears, which officials believe would have taken the Bhagwan on to Bermuda.
It's our understanding that they were a charter plane that was going to meet them here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there go on to Bermuda.
It was mid-afternoon before the Bhagwan and his 6 traveling companions appeared in court, and it wasn't long before the Bhagwan's health became the issue. Bhagwan's attorney detailing a host of medical problems which he says will cause serious bodily harm to the Bhagwan if he's forced to stay in a cell or wear prison garb. Instead, the attorney asked for a hospital room. The judge refused. The Bhagwan himself was not without words, at one point asking if all this
boring nonsense was necessary, and then standing and asking the judge if it was necessary for him to continue sitting on the hard bench. There were a few Bhagwan followers in the courtroom and a very, very upset spokeswoman outside.
Bhagwan does not look well. His body is in pain. I'm very concerned for his well-being, and what's more, I hold this government responsible if any harm happens to him. I hope people of America will not allow any harm to come to him.
An hour later, the Bhagwan was in handcuffs. He smiled, waved, and appeared not to be very concerned. Tonight, he is in a county jail here in Charlotte.
The judge has ordered that the Bhagwan and the followers be held without bail. The U.S. Marshal and U.S. Attorney suggesting that the Bhagwan and others would flee the country. If they were released, they also suggested that the Bhagwan might be a danger to the community. The trial has been set for 3 days from now, Thursday at 10 a.m. Right now, that trial is scheduled to take place here in Charlotte. But Bhagwan's attorneys want him moved to Portland, and the government is considering that request right now. Denise, back to you in Portland.
For governor.
There was a noisy confrontation today outside a Portland abortion clinic. We'll have details. And coming up next, state police arrest a Lake Oswego car dealer. He's accused of rolling back odometers. The story when we come back.
It's your money, son. But if you want my advice, buy another Subaru.
Sure, Dad.
Thought we agreed you'd buy a Subaru.
But, Dad, I did.
The new Subaru XT Coupe.
Test drive a Subaru today at the Northwest Subaru dealer nearest you.
You're looking at the greatest improvement in painting since Glidden invented latex paint. A new paint that comes in its own pan, ready to spread. Drips less, spatters less, requires no mixing, no pouring, no stirring. What's the secret behind this remarkable paint? Simple. It's solid. Try new Spread Solid paint from Glidden. The paint that makes painting easy.
Introductory $4 rebate at Fred Meyer.
With a box of Jell-O brand gelatin and a little this and that, you can give them a good old time. Grab a melon, turn it round, turn an apple upside down. A sun-kissed orange goes great with Jell-O. Make it red, green, or yellow. Add a strawberry, peach, or pear, and watch them leap up in the air. Just look in these, and you'll find those. With Jell-O gelatin, any fruit goes. Jell-O gelatin, we're up to something good.
Hello there, Northwest. Your old friend McLean Stevenson here, inviting you to experience America. Like they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Have a look. America is your kind of program, covering your kind of topics. It's got style, class, and sparkle. It's exciting and entertaining. It's America, and it's on weekdays at noon right here on Channel 2, where there's always more for you.
Oregon State Police raided a Lake Oswego car dealership this morning. They confiscated several vehicles and arrested the owner. The charge is odometer tampering. Randy Ripplinger reports it's more of the state's Get Tough campaign.
John Christian was a used car dealer in Lake Oswego until about 10:30 this morning. That's when Oregon State Police arrested him at his Lake Oswego car rental and used car sales lot. Now he is charged with odometer tampering and theft by deception. Christian is accused of turning the odometers back on several used cars, then selling them for more than they were worth.
The case has been under investigation for approximately 2 months. Through our investigation, we've determined that there's some odometers that have been apparently rolled back. And as we both know, that's a loss of money to the consumer.
Police surveyed the dealership records, interviewed employees, and checked odometer readings throughout most of the morning.
24799.8.
5 of the vehicles, they said, had odometers that were turned back. Those were yellow tagged, and within a few minutes, a herd of tow trucks hauled the suspect vehicles away. More vehicles, say the investigators, are still under investigation. It is not the first such case in the metro area.
There's money to be made by turning the odometers back, not only by dealers but private citizens. It's common in some areas, and we've found it happening in a number of occasions here in the Portland area.
The best way to protect yourself against buying a car with a cheating odometer? Take the car license number or serial number to the Department of Motor Vehicles. They will give you the name of the previous owner, and you can then ask that person if the mileage is accurate. Several law agencies are eager to crack down on this form of theft. And while this car dealer was released after being cited today, his business isn't off the hook yet. Beside the criminal charges, the state has sued the owner under the Racketeering and Corrupt Influences Act. The state says it will attempt to shut the business down permanently and freeze the sale of all vehicles on this lot. In Lake Oswego, Randy Ripplinger, Channel 2 News.
Now, the state police would like your help in this odometer tampering. Been indicted on charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and first-degree assault. And Bhagwan himself is also in jail in Charlotte, North Carolina. The guru and several followers were taken into custody last night when their plane stopped to refuel on a flight from Oregon to Bermuda. Bhagwan is being charged with violating immigration laws. It may be 3 days before the guru is returned to the Northwest. He is being held without bail.
The arrest of the Bhagwan has stunned disciples at Rajneeshpuram, but despite the uproar, the atmosphere appears to be fairly calm there. There's no evidence of a mass exodus from the ranch. Jim Hyde is at Rajneeshpuram. He has a report for us.
It looks like any other morning in downtown Rajneeshpuram. Most people would be at Bhagwan's daily discourse at this hour, but the giant meeting hall is empty. So is the sprawling house at Lao Tzu Grove, where Bhagwan has regally resided since 1981. The dozens of Rolls Royces are idle. The busiest place at the ranch is the Public Relations Office, where the Rajneesh PR Corps is fielding questions from around the world.
All I can tell the people in Oregon, and I've been saying this from the beginning, is wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen. How could they know? This is not following a preconceived plan. It never has been. We're just alive people, and things change all the time.
Isabel says Naren, Bhagwan's chief attorney, and Hasia, his personal secretary, have gone to Carolina to try to get the guru out of jail. Dion John, the chief financial officer, is in seclusion somewhere on the ranch. Since July, Bhagwan has spoken to his disciples every day while sitting on a throne-like chair in this huge meeting hall. Today, he sits on a cot in a jail cell in North Carolina. His followers are only now beginning to adjust to that reality.
We don't feel that he's deserted us. So, this is he's just left us in the lurch.
It's not a feeling of desertion?
No.
Not at all. That's not a question that I've heard anyone bring up, and it's certainly not anything happening in my heart.
Although he's not here at the moment, I don't feel like his influence is gone at all. And that no matter where he is at the moment, his spirit is still very much here.
While the spirit of the guru may still be in his Oregon commune, the absence of his body is making a major change in the pattern of his disciples' lives. It may herald a change in their location as well. At Rajneeshpuram, Jim Hyde, Channel 2 News.
Jury selection begins here in Portland tomorrow in a damage suit and countersuit involving the Rajneeshis. Two Rajneeshi corporations are suing the man who used to be the foreman of the ranch they transformed into Rajneeshpuram. Brooks Burford explains why.
Back in the fall of '81, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh arrived in Oregon to settle here at the Big Muddy Ranch. Purchase price $6 million. $1.5 million of it on the table in cash. These Rajneeshis knew commune experience from Pune, India, but none of them had ever started up a large ranch and farming operation before. So they got this man to stay on.
The boys are real good on the machinery now. They're getting better every day. It takes time.
They're now suing Bob Harvey. For $36,000, they claim they overpaid him, and for $110,000, they say he pilfered from them in an automobile deal. He is countersuing for $3 million in damages for defamation, invasion of privacy, and for the sale of his personal property he left behind at the Big Muddy.
And if the gossip quits, we'll be a lot better off.
What kind of gossip have you heard?
Oh, just like submachine guns and this kind of stuff, and you know, bodyguards around everybody. I'm the only one on the place that has a gun, and mine are so full of dust, I don't even know if they'd fire.
But his attitude about the Rajneeshis has changed a lot since that interview 4 years ago. The trial was moved to Portland after a judge in Canyon City didn't think any jury without prejudice.
Suddenly, amid accusations of attempted murder, now it appears the Bhagwan had some unorthodox plans. He was arrested in North Carolina last night while apparently trying to leave the country. He has been charged with harboring illegal aliens and lying to immigration agents. Here's ABC's Rebecca Chase.
Federal agents had tracked the two charter Learjets from Oregon across the country. But when the planes landed in Charlotte en route to Bermuda, federal agents surrounded the planes and arrested the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh and 13 of his followers.
God, there were cops everywhere, people with shotguns, sawed-off shotguns, handguns, telling the people to get out of the planes and put their hands up on their head.
The Indian guru was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. 6 of his followers were also charged with aiding and abetting the unlawful flight. In the arraignment hearing, the government asked that Rajneesh be detained for 3 days, saying there was a risk that he would leave the country if released. Lawyers for Rajneesh argued that the Indian guru has diabetes, asthma, and a bad back and needs special medical attention. At one point, Rajneesh asked the judge, "Am I supposed to sit on these hard benches for 3 days?" So the magistrate agreed that Rajneesh could have 24-hour nursing care and a vegetarian diet while he spends the next 3 days in jail awaiting the hearing set for Thursday. Rebecca Chase, ABC News, Charlotte, North Carolina.
This is Judd Rose in Oregon. Their leader was in custody thousands of miles away. Meanwhile, back at the ranch,
It's just another day in the adventure.
wherever he is, we are. Wherever we are, he is. But hundreds of Rajneeshis were still in the commune, even if Rajneesh clearly was not. Indeed, this morning, the massive prayer hall where the Bhagwan usually conducts daily meditation services was quiet and empty. Top commune officials still here were in seclusion, trying to absorb this latest in a series of shocks since last month, when many of the commune's leaders fled amid a barrage of charges that they committed various crimes. And today, in a small town near the Swiss border, German police arrested 3 of those who fled, including the guru's one-time top aide, Ma Anand Sheela. The U.S. will ask for their extradition tomorrow. The Bhagwan's apparent attempt to flee the country came as no surprise to many of his longtime critics.
Well, the Bhagwan was a con artist, and he was going to get caught sooner or later.
The only difference between this and his leaving of India is that in this case he's going to be called back to answer serious criminal charges.
And for a man who was in such a hurry to leave Oregon, he could be back here for a long time. Charged with 35 felony counts, Rajneesh could face up to 5 years in prison for each one.
Bhagwan and several of his followers are in a Charlotte, North Carolina jail. They were arrested early this morning after their private jet touched down there on its way to Bermuda. The group was attempting to flee the country after a federal grand jury handed down a 35-count indictment charging the guru and 7 others with violating immigration laws. This afternoon, the Bhagwan and his followers appeared in a North Carolina courtroom. Bhagwan's attorney asked the judge for a hospital room for the guru, claiming his health was frail. The judge refused. The Bhagwan and his group were escorted back to the Charlotte County Jail, where they're spending the night tonight. Meantime, there's word that Ma Anand Sheela has been arrested and taken into custody in West Germany. Sheela is being held in Waldshut, West Germany, along with former followers Shanti Badra and Ma Anand Puja. They've been indicted on charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and first-degree assault. State and federal agents are reported to be in West Germany questioning the suspects tonight.
Well, Jeff, the indictments handed out last Wednesday were supposed to be secret until the defendants in Europe were arrested. But because of a leak, some Rajneeshis in Oregon found out they had been named. Within 2 hours, the Bhagwan was on a plane trying to leave the country. But not all of those indicted tried to run, as Dan Christopher tells us. 4 of them have turned themselves in. Dan, what can you tell us?
Well, Melissa, all 4 of the defendants were important members of the Rajneeshpuram hierarchy. They had been named in the 35-count indictment, and they were about to be arrested by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But then this morning, upon reading that they had been indicted, they flew from Rajneeshpuram to Portland and turned themselves in to U.S. Marshals. They were promptly processed, and at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the women went before Judge Edward Levy. He advised them of their rights, then released them, pending a detention hearing this coming Thursday. A little earlier this afternoon, U.S. Attorney Charles Turner announced that the government plans to keep the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh without bail and hopes to do the same with Ma Anand Sheela. She was arrested today in West Germany, and an application has been made for her extradition to this country to face charges in a single trial for all 8 of the defendants. Now, if found guilty, the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh faces a maximum of 175 years in prison, plus a $350,000 fine. And the others could be imprisoned for a maximum of 165 years and fines of $330,000. Most of the charges involve lying, conspiracy, and sham marriages. Undoubtedly, we're going to be hearing a lot more about this story. Jeff and Melissa?
Okay, Dan, any word on how long the Bhagwan, at this point in time, I know the details are sketchy, will actually have to stay in that North Carolina jail?
Well, it is impossible to say for sure because sometimes bureaucracy moves a little more slowly than we might like, Jeff. But they're hoping within a day, 2, maybe 3 days to get him back here. And maybe it was wishful thinking on the part of the U.S. Attorney today, but he was talking about the possibility of a trial in a matter of a few weeks. It sounds a little optimistic, but we'll wait and see. Could be.
Okay, Dan, thanks for that report.
Thanks very much, Dan. Well, the Bhagwan and his followers are certainly not strangers to controversy. The group has been involved in a succession of legal struggles since moving to Oregon. Steve Tytler explains.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh arrived in Oregon in the summer of 1981. He left his ashram in Pune, India, reportedly to seek medical treatment in the United States for an asthmatic condition and other problems. Rajneesh remained in this country for more than a year on an extension of his original visa. In October of 1982, he was interviewed by U.S. Immigration Service officials as he applied for permanent resident status as a religious teacher. After more than a year of legal battles, the Immigration Service eventually ruled that Rajneesh is a religious teacher, but the service continued its investigation into charges that Rajneesh filed a false visa application to enter the United States and charges of arranging marriages with U.S. citizens so that foreign sannyasins could remain in this country. In an interview 2 years ago for the Channel 2 News investigative series Rajneeshpuram Revealed, former sannyasin Susan Harfolk told us about the marriages.
Yeah, there's arranged marriages between people from other countries who would like to stay here and people who are citizens.
Are these people that know each other?
Sometimes, and sometimes not.
So they're not real marriages? Then?
They're not real marriages.
Where are they performed?
Sometimes they're, well, there was one really elaborate wedding that Sheela had on her front lawn of her house while I was there. I didn't see it, though. But they did that because it would make good publicity. And, oh yeah, the 2 guys that I live with in West L.A., both of them married girls from England, I think, so that these girls could stay here and go to the ranch.
Harfolk also said that when she was living at Rajneeshpuram in 1982, Rajneesh leaders always seemed to know when Immigration Service agents were coming to the ranch for their weekly raids looking for illegal aliens, and that the Rajneeshis had intricate plans for hiding them.
They always knew. They were always prepared, and so the people could move really fast when the immigration people actually crossed the property line. There's so many Motorolas and CBs and everything that everything can happen fast. There would come this secret code over the radio, and it would be different things, like send a taxi to pick up Sheila's dirty laundry. That was one.
What did that mean?
That means everybody who was supposed to be hiding, all the people who are not supposed to be on the ranch, should go to wherever they're supposed to be hiding, whatever trailer it was or what.
How did that?
The immigration investigation took a surprising turn in February of 1984, when Rajneesh's former secretary, Ma Anand Sheela, announced that her father, an American resident, had adopted Rajneesh in 1936 when Rajneesh was only a 4-year-old boy. Finally, after 4 years, the investigation culminated last week when a federal grand jury indicted Rajneesh on 35 immigration charges. Steve Tytler, Channel 2 News.
Well, things were very quiet today throughout Rajneeshpuram. The one place with activity was the Public Relations Office. Their media from around the world were calling in with questions. The latest developments signal a major change for the Bhagwan's followers.
It's not a feeling of desertion?
No. Not at all. That's not a question that I've heard anyone bring up, and it's certainly not anything happening in my heart.
Although he's not here at the moment, I don't feel like his influence is gone at all. And that no matter where he is at the moment, his spirit is still very much here.
Residents living near Rajneeshpuram have played a central role in the Rajneesh controversy for years. Today, the mood in Madras was surprisingly low-key considering the news.
I think there's an awful lot behind that we don't know about. You know, the drugs and all that, there just has to be something that, you know, I don't know what to think about it.
A lot of people are happy. You know, it's about time that they start doing to them what they've done to people around here.
There's a lot more smiles on their faces. You know, I don't know how long he's going to be in there, but the longer it is, the better I think a lot of people are going to feel about it.
Well, someone else who must be relieved to see the events of the last 24 hours take place is State Representative Wayne Fawbush. The Democrat from Hood River has been in a running battle with the Rajneeshis for years. In the past, they've tried to discredit Fawbush. Meanwhile, he's been a force behind efforts to control the Rajneeshis. Wayne Fawbush joins us now. Representative Fawbush, I guess the first obvious question is, how do you feel about today's events and what do you think they mean to your constituents?
Well, it's a partial relief at this point. You have to remember there are a number of things still to be resolved. This, in a way, will make it much easier for us, I think, to resolve a number of those issues, because in the end, we will be better, more capable of dealing with the Rajneesh as an entity, with the issues such as what are we going to do with antelope? Is that going to be returned? What about the city status of Rajneeshpuram and the conflict with the state constitution? What about the other civil lawsuits that are going on? All of those things, I think we will be able to make some progress on them.
Representative Fawbush, in your estimation, what does this mean about the ranch now? Is this the beginning of the end of the commune?
Well, we've heard that before. I think the beginning, if there was a downturn, happened on September 5th when Sheela and the original group took off. After that period of time, the Bhagwan seemed to try to reassert his control over that religion and take control of the ranch. I think we see today that that was an absolute failure, and I think they are going to continue to slide downhill. Movements like that don't survive well on a status quo. They have to be moving up and growing, or it's very hard for them to sustain that.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us tonight. A lot of events happening in the last...
Sheela are under arrest tonight. The Bhagwan and 6 followers were arrested last night in Charlotte, North Carolina on charges of violating immigration laws. Among the charges against them, performing sham marriages at the Rajneeshis commune. Federal officials say the group was on its way to Bermuda, hoping to avoid prosecution when arrested. Once in custody, they were also charged with unlawful flight. Today, at a hearing in federal district court, lawyers for the Bhagwan argued that he should be released on bail, but the judge refused. We have a series of reports on these developments, beginning with Larry Lamont from federal district court in North Carolina.
The health of the 53-year-old guru was the central concern of his attorneys in federal court in Charlotte. They argued against Rajneesh being kept in the county jail while awaiting further hearings, saying his health would not hold out. They said he has several allergies, diabetes, and a bad back. They pointed out that at his headquarters in Oregon, he is kept in a bubble-like, germ-free, temperature-controlled environment in which people must take baths before meeting him. They said he requires a special diet. At one point, the Bhagwan, as he is called, stood up and told the federal judge, "I can't eat anything they give me." He was referring to the county jail. Moments later, he asked the judge if he was going to have to sit on the hard bench in the courtroom for 3 days. The judge said no and suggested Rajneesh's attorneys give him the cushions from their chairs. Judge Barbara Delaney said a doctor and a nurse could examine Rajneesh and she would follow their recommendations as to where he should be kept. She did that after ordering a hearing on Thursday to determine if bond should be set in the case. Rajneesh and 8 of his followers were arrested early Monday morning after federal authorities surrounded 2 charter jets at the airport in Charlotte. He was accused of immigration violations in Oregon and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. 6 of his followers were accused of helping him try to flee to Bermuda. 2 others were released. The federal prosecutor contended that all 7 defendants should be held until a bond hearing because of the danger they might once again try to flee. The judge agreed to that.
Ma Anand Sheela, the guru's former personal secretary who fled Oregon last month, is also behind bars tonight. She is imprisoned in a West German jail. The arrest came less than 24 hours after the Bhagwans in North Carolina. More on that development now from Florence Jonick.
She reportedly laughed when German police converged on her residence. They took her to a courthouse jail where she remains tonight. U.S. officials say they will seek her extradition. Sheela and the Bhagwan are 2 of 8 Rajneeshis charged in a 35-count indictment returned last week by a federal grand jury. The indictment charges them with arranging sham marriages, covering them up by means of trick, scheme, and device, and lying to immigration officials.
A sham marriage is defined generally in the law as one entered into solely for the purpose of obtaining immigration benefits and not for the purpose of living together as husband and wife.
Turner says the indictment is the result of a 17-month investigation into Rajneesh immigration activities. He says he will seek a joint trial of all 8 defendants in Portland. 4 other Rajneeshis named in the indictment turned themselves in to federal marshals in Portland today. They were released on their own recognizance this afternoon, but ordered to return to court Thursday for a bail hearing. Federal attorneys say they will ask the court to deny bail. U.S. Attorney Charles Turner refused to say whether any more Rajneeshis will be indicted on these or other charges. He did reveal, however, that an additional federal investigation is underway. At the U.S. Federal Courthouse in downtown Portland, Florence Jonick, the 10 o'clock news.
Meanwhile, in Rajneeshpuram today, followers of the Bhagwan expressed dismay at this recent turn of events. Sylvia Stinson was at the commune today to bring us this report.
Despite the untimely departure of the Bhagwan and his subsequent arrest, all was quiet in Rajneeshpuram today. His followers almost resigned to a succession of surprises.
I absolutely know that being with him, you can't count on anything. It's so wild.
I don't expect anything from him except surprises over and over again. And all I can tell you is my concern right now is that physically they'll keep him alive and healthy. Those people could kill him without even realize what they are doing if they don't take care of his medical condition. It's as simple as that.
Oddly, very few of the Bhagwan's followers knew what to make of the Guru's night flight, told only what they gathered from outside news reports.
Does it bother you and the other sannyasins that what you're learning now, you're learning through the press, that the hierarchy aren't keeping you informed?
I think what we do is basically take care of Bhagwan, whatever it takes.
Meanwhile, sannyasins maintain their only concern is for the fragile health of the Bhagwan and for his eventual return to Rajneeshpuram.
What's to become of the commune?
We'll find out. I mean, Oregonians and journalists seem to be better at predicting than we do. I would never try to predict anything about life. I don't predict about my life, and I don't predict about anything either. You know, I've learned that everything can change in a minute.
Despite the startling events of the past 24 hours, one thing remains the same: the intense loyalty sannyasins have for the Bhagwan. The commune may collapse, and some speculate it is, but there is no conceding defeat among any of his followers. In Rajneeshpuram, Sylvia Stinson, the 10 o'clock news. State officials said today they anticipated the Bhagwan might try to make some kind of escape from Rajneeshpuram. Attorney General Dave Frohnmeyer says he was aware of the Bhagwan leaving last night. He said before the arrest it was touch and go for a while, but Frohnmeyer says he feels hasty planning foiled the Bhagwan's escape.
My sense, and it's only a sense of it, is that the escape arrangements may have been planned sometime in advance, but they were executed rather hastily because rather clearly if they were perfected, the Bhagwan would be in some foreign country now.
In a statement from the Middle East, Governor Atiyah expressed his gratitude today to the many law enforcement officials who have poured over the Rajneesh case since he directed Frohnmeyer to investigate it in September. Atiyah is in Syria for a conference of elected officials of Arab ancestry.
One of the most outspoken Rajneesh critics has been State Representative Wayne Fawbush. His district, number 56, includes the commune at Rajneeshpuram. Representative Fawbush is here with us tonight to talk about what has happened. First, we'd just like to get your reaction to the arrest of Ma Anand Sheela and Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh.
Well, it's about time. We've been waiting for immigration to act for some time. And this was anticipated as much as a year ago when the convenience marriages and the other things came to light. So it's about time.
Representative, I'd like to ask you about the timetable. The Bhagwan was arrested in North Carolina today. Sheela was arrested in Germany. Was this a coordinated effort?
Well, I'm not so sure it was. It looked as though that they were after Sheela on a planned effort to be sure to get her before she got into Switzerland. And then all of a sudden it looks like the Bhagwan took flight. And they moved everything up to be sure that they wouldn't lose either one of them. Now, it raises some real issues because the Bhagwan leaving like that was rather unexpected. I think he shot himself in his other foot in doing so. If he had stayed at the ranch, the hesitancy of officials to go into the ranch and arrest the Bhagwan was a real factor in his favor of being able to stay on the ranch and survive some of these court challenges.
Why were they so hesitant if they had charges against them?
Well, if you remember, the Rajneesh have quite a security police force, and we're not still sure to this date just what remains of that force and how dedicated they are to protecting the person of the Bhagwan on the ranch. So his leaving the ranch was a fortuitous act for us in a way, because we diffused that situation and are now able to take him into custody and prepare those charges that we've been waiting for.
Representative Fawbush, what are some of the legal issues that come up now that the Bhagwan has been arrested? Lawsuits have been in the courts almost since the Rajneeshis arrived. What do you think the future in that area is going to be?
Well, you're going to see you're going to see the continuing criminal procedures against both Sheela and the Bhagwan. You're going to see probably more indictments on immigration matters. That's a speculated guess. But you're going to see continued civil lawsuits. There are several working their way through the courts now. You may see additional civil lawsuits for people who feel they've been damaged from some of the activities that have come to light recently.
In conclusion, and briefly, unfortunately, what do you feel the economic impact will be out of the commune now that they've lost their leadership?
Well, in a way, economics is everything for them. Without that ranch as a main driving force to bring in revenue, I think they're going to have a very hard time sustaining the lifestyle that the Bhagwan has become used to.
All righty. And that will have an economic impact on Oregon, too, as well, will it not?
Who's to say? That money comes in, and they have a very vertical hierarchy.
Yes.
For how long?
For as long as I want to keep it running.
But it remains to be seen when, if ever, Bhagwan will return to his ranch and how long its residents will stay.
Maine in a North Carolina jail tonight. Steve Teitler is in Charlotte and has the latest on the situation.
Rajneesh's personal secretary, Ma Prem Hasya, is still trying to get over the sight of Bhagwan behind bars. And Rajneesh followers from all over the country are calling Charlotte to find out if it's really true. Rajneesh and 6 of his followers were arrested early Monday when their 2 Learjets landed in Charlotte, allegedly bound for Bermuda. Federal authorities say Rajneesh was fleeing the country to escape 35 charges of immigration fraud and conspiracy handed down last week by a grand jury in Portland. Rajneesh is being held here in the Mecklenburg County Jail. He's been placed in a cell with 5 other inmates. The other 2 male Rajneeshis are in separate cells. The women Rajneeshis are in a separate area. Rajneesh is being held in a cell like this, right across the hall from the nurse's station, so that his frail health can be monitored on a regular basis. Bhagwan was forced to trade in his robes for jail blues, but he appears to be in good spirits despite the Rajneeshi concerns about his health.
My concern is that he may die here or shortly after.
There's been no problem at all.
Do you think the Rajneeshis are exaggerating his health problems?
I couldn't answer that. I can only say that, what we're seeing of him, he's doing fine.
Hasya claims Rajneesh was not fleeing, he was just taking a short vacation. She says he intended to return to Oregon in time to testify next month before a federal grand jury investigating alleged criminal activity at Rajneeshpuram. Rajneesh's attorney, Peter Shea of Los Angeles, admits Bhagwan's flight gave an appearance of impropriety, and he says he tried to contact the planes in flight to encourage them to turn around. As for the charges facing Rajneesh, Shea calls them a grab bag indictment.
If one looks solely at the 2 counts that relate to his immigration status, they're not particularly consequential.
Bhagwan's next appearance in court will be on Thursday before a federal hearing, and at that time the Guru's attorney says he'll ask that the rest of the proceedings be transferred here to Oregon. Melissa?
Well, Jeff, meanwhile, another legal process has begun. It is the process of extradition. As you know, the Bhagwan's personal secretary, Ma Anand Sheela, was arrested in Germany. Sheela and 2 other women, Ma Anand Puja and Ma Shanti Badra, were formally charged this morning. The 3 are accused of trying to murder the Bhagwan's personal physician, Swami Devaraj, and they are charged with conspiracy to commit murder and assault. The women are in jail tonight near the Black Forest resort of Waldshut. Now, American officials must present their evidence against the 3 to the Germans. If the German judges agree, Sheela, Badra, and Puja could be extradited to the United States. If that is, they don't fight extradition. If they do, the extradition process could take considerably longer. It could be a year before Sheela and others are brought to trial in this country. Commune leaders at Rajneeshpuram are voicing a unanimous no comment on the details of Bhagwan's flight. Jim Hyde reports residents and guests are putting together the story as best they can.
There is no live TV at Rajneeshpuram, and residents get their outside news from clippings pinned to their cafeteria bulletin board. Their leaders have called 2 successive nightly meetings for residents, but have given no details of Bhagwan's flight. This afternoon, reporters learned little more.
I was at the airport when Bhagwan left. That's really all I can say.
It's always inappropriate to comment on legal matters when the investigation is still happening.
The ranking leaders remaining on the ranch would not say how much money Bhagwan took with him on the Sunday night flight. A source in North Carolina law enforcement put that figure at $8 million. Regardless, the commune financial manager said there remains enough cash to continue to operate indefinitely.
Yes.
For how long?
For as long as I want to keep it running.
Dion John put the commune book value, everything from real estate to Rolls Royces, at $80 million, and liabilities at $35 million. Net worth, on paper at least, of $45 million. But if Bhagwan does not return to his ranch, a distinct possibility at this point, its value and its population could...